everybody. Welcome to the Abroaders Travel Podcast, your weekly meetup with thousands of entrepreneurs, hustlers, creators, nomads, ninjas, wanderers, and world changers, all seeking to build the skills and connections to live a life without borders. If you want to learn more about what we do or download our entire podcast archive, check out the website, abroaders.com. Happy Wednesday morning and welcome to another episode of the Abroaders Podcast. I'm Erik here with AJ in Austin, Texas. This is episode 169 and today is April 5th, 2017.
Yeah, man. Time flies. I can't believe that we're already through Q1.
I know. It's been a fast start to 2017.
Yeah, man. I can't believe that we've actually been in Austin for a little bit of time now. We're finally starting to get acclimated a little bit to the city. We've been working a lot, but we've actually made an effort to get out and about. Man, for any of the listeners that are ever gonna spend any time in Austin, we found a co-working space that's pretty legit. It's not cheap, but it's called Capital Factory, and I've never seen a co-working space do exactly what they do as far as offering more than just a space. There's serious infrastructure as far as intellectual capital, people, and resources to help the companies that work from there, and they seem actually pretty committed to helping the startups and the people that are getting work done there actually meet the right people, whether it's business connections, investors, developers, designers. So that's been pretty cool to see because I've only heard of it, and it's an impressive space, man. I mean, that meetup we went to is a huge space.
Yeah, it's a really good spot. I think it's a place. Well, I mean, first of all, so for context, we've sort of got like the same living space as office space right now. So we've kind of got a 2-bedroom apartment.
Yeah, we've essentially got a sweet
big
apartment
office in the middle of our apartment. And I think that's actually just going to help a lot to have another location to go to a couple days a week and be able to connect with other entrepreneurs here in Austin. And overall, I think, just the number of companies and just smart people that are gathering at that space is going to make it well worth the extra money.
Yeah, get us a little bit out of our bubble, man.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, let's get into the news and updates. We've got a few things. This is going to be a little bit of a shorter episode, but that's just in the spirit.
We'll see. We always say that.
Yeah, 50 minutes in.
Tangent.
Here you go. So you want to start us off with this credit card that's got a pretty compelling cashback offer.
Yeah, so a lot of blog post came out this week about a new card that is essentially like a 2.5% cashback card. It's not from one of the major issuers, so it's one of the sort of small credit union type deals. And it started a conversation for us about whether it's actually worth, going after cashback cards. Now, first of all, this is, it's true that for some people, depending on what types of tickets you tend to buy, cashback may be the best option, just in the sense, especially if you fly mostly domestic, you don't care very much about premium cabin travel, you're not buying business and first class tickets. In those cases, cashback, it maybe isn't a better deal point for point, but getting cash back for your spend instead of earning points might save you enough time.
And also,
it's worth it.
In the spirit of our core content, which we're going to touch on, some point expiration stuff.
Cash never expires.
The thing with cashback, you don't have to worry about redeeming it on that trip that you may have had something happen, but yeah, it's like Erik said, it's from a smaller credit union. I think to get into the credit union, you need to make like a $10 donation to one of their listed charities or something.
Foster Care to Success, I believe. The card is called the Alliant Cashback Visa Signature Card. We will link over in the show notes, and if this is something that you're interested in, it's potentially a really good deal if you have high spend. And again, if you're not working on accumulating points for business and first class redemptions, and you spend more of your money on tickets, or especially if you're in a spot where a lot of the reward travel that you're looking for is at times when the seats aren't as available. I mean, we're super lucky in the sense that, like, we were talking about Brazil the other day, and the difference between me going down to Brazil at the end of April, maybe early May, it's wide open availability. Like from Austin to Brazil and back, no problem. On the other hand, and so I think I'm going to be going to Sao Paulo, but we've got our friend Andre in Sao Paulo that wants to come up to the US for our other friend's wedding in July. And it is absolutely impossible to get a saver level redemption with a couple of the major currencies we check. And that's it's a matter of when you're trying to travel.
Yeah. I guess, a decent rule of thumb for most people is if you have a chance to get a decent sign-up bonus, there's more potential travel savings there than this cashback card. Because that's one thing I think some people get too obsessed with is, oh, well, each time I use my card. And if you actually look back at the points that people in our community earn and that they ultimately use, a lot of that's from the sign-up bonus. So, I mean, yeah, maybe you're only getting $1 spent for your American Airlines credit card, but you also racked up $50,000, which is a flight a lot of places. So
yeah, absolutely. All right. So I got, before we move on to some of the earning points, I've also wanted to just mention this because so there's a Swedish hotel chain that is offering a refund up to a 2-night stay if you get divorced after staying at their hotel. And so they're running this promotion to essentially
it's so smart.
Try and get couples to spend more time together. And it just caught my attention because I thought it was a really interesting thing. It's super safe for them, right? Like when you're getting divorced, the last thing that you want to do is like go hunt down the hotel that you stayed at in Sweden 2 years ago. That was like,
for a 2-day stay,
Exactly.
Man, I think why this is so smart is it's kind of outlandish and it's kind of kooky to the point that I bet you this is going to drum up a lot of press. If they've got any connections in the media world, that's the type of thing that, like it will be on BuzzFeed, this hotel is letting you stay for free if you get divorced, so I think it's a pretty smart move on their part. And once again, I mean, they probably have vacant rooms as is. So if, a person that was down on their luck went through a divorce, did want to take them up on it, like hell, they got a room probably.
Yeah, I'm sure they get lots of breakage on that. Okay, so next up we've got a promotion from Singapore Chris Flyer. And I think this is a really good opportunity. It's not a huge number of miles, but there's 500 miles up for grabs if you don't already have a Singapore account. And so the promo code is JOINKF2017. We'll have the link in the show notes. This is valid through April 14th. So you got a little more than a week to still register. And the reason I wanted to bring this up. So first of all, Singapore is a transfer partner of all 4 transferable currencies. So Amex, Chase, Citi, and SPG. So it's really easy to get points into the Singapore program. And it occurred to me that the people that don't have a Singapore account, not only do you get to start out with 500 free Chris Flyer miles, but this is a really good opportunity to link up that Singapore account that you create to all of your transferable currencies, because Singapore is one of the ones that doesn't transfer instantly. So even Chase, which is probably the best, is about 24 hours.
Yeah. Oh, man,
Citi and Amex are about 18.
The last thing you want to do
36.
if you find something good is to say, shit, I don't have my account linked, and now you're doing this. Maybe it was a website glitch. A couple years ago, I had an issue with Air France. I swore that I had it connected to American Express, and I didn't, and it was kind of a last minute thing, and it was pretty stressful, and it could have just been avoided if I went down the list. Here's our major programs. Here's where the points can come from. Let's link up these accounts and just never worry about it again.
Yes. So it's definitely a great idea. Beyond this promotion with Singapore, if you have transferable points, any program that's a transfer partner that you think you may use, it's really worth just sitting down, spend 15, 20 minutes, get your account numbers and link those up so that you've got the ability to make transfers quicker if you find availability and want to do that fast. So again, it's 500 free Chris Flyer miles if you don't have an account. Link is in the show notes. Nice little freebie.
Yeah.
All right. So next up, we've got promo awards from Flying Blue. It is a new month, and so we've got a couple of interesting ones from North America, but I definitely don't think this is super compelling with promo awards this time around compared to some of the ones we've seen in the past. Just for reference, so typically they offer a city pair, so some location in Europe to a specific city in another region, like Boston is one of the North American regions, and either it'll be a discount on business class, premium economy, or economy, and the discount ranges from 25 to 50%. Now, this month there are absolutely 0 that are at 50%, which is a bummer. But the 25% ones, both of the ones to North America, are 25% in business class, and that is a pretty decent deal. So the other city is Mexico City, so potentially not quite as useful to folks in the US, but Boston is relatively easy to get to. It's kind of a big hub on the East Coast, so there's lots of flights that can position you to get to Boston, and then your business class flight to Europe is going to be 25% off. So with Flying Blue, that's going to run about 48,000 points for a one-way in business class.
I mean, that's a really good deal. That's well, ahead of the market. The average would be probably 55.
55 is like United on their own metal. Americans in the 55 to 60 range. Delta's charging like 70 or 80.
Yeah, it depends.
United on Partners is 70. So it's a better deal. But the other thing that I would say is like it's kind of a bummer in the sense that it's on the East Coast. If it were like Salt Lake City or something that's more accessible for people on the West Coast, a discount from LAX, then you've got some serious extra hours for flying. But Boston to most places in Europe is going to be under 10 hours.
Yeah.
Might not be worth using the points. Anyways, so this round of flights for Flying Blue promo awards, they are for bookings. There's some differences depending on where you're going, but these ones are for bookings in April for the most part. Some of them allow bookings into May, and this is for travel in June and July of this summer.
Yeah, and as it always is the case, there's a limited supply of these things. So Earlier in the month is better than later in the month to find a flight that may work for you.
Yep. All right. Next up, we got just a quick announcement. Delta just went live with redemptions for SkyMiles on WestJet, which is a Canadian-based airline. I think this is kind of a big deal. Just first of all, Delta has been super frustrating recently. I know for us, with a couple of different redemptions that we've tried to go for, Delta just hasn't had great availability. They're really good with their sort of dynamic pricing. And the key thing to know about how Delta's program works is that if there's space on their partner airlines, it's going to be at the lowest level, the saver level. So whereas Delta gets super creative with mixing it up and charging basically as much as they think they can get away with for their own flights, when you can find a flight on a partner airline, it's going to be at the saver level, which is really nice news, especially for folks that have travel plans to Canada.
Yeah, and this will give people a little bit more accessibility to Canada that have SkyMiles, because you'll be able to hop on a WestJet flight. You'll be able to combine Delta and WestJet flights, so you can go to a little bit bigger network. So
because Delta's got they have lots of destinations in Canada, but they're not flying to like the smaller airports. So always a good thing to have more partners and more options. So that's live as of now. What else do we got here?
Got some info on credit scores that some people may be interested about. I found that kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So it looks like a decent chunk of people may see their credit score increase because of a couple changes that we've got made. I can't see the notes from here, but
I mean, I think so this actually kind of applies to my personal story as well. When I was a student at University of Michigan, one of my landlords actually sued us for the right to keep our security deposit. And so it ended up being this like really awkward, weird way that it was recorded as a public record. And so on my credit report, it says that I essentially got sued for $500 by my landlord, even though
that was
what was actually happening was we were taking him to court for the ability to get our $500 security deposit back. Right. Yeah. So he was basically, the way it got written
had to be more than a $500 security deposit.
It was like a $2,000, but he wanted to take like $600 more than he should have. And anyways, there's some scenarios like that where like basically my landlord had to sue me for the right to keep the money of mine that he already had. But on my credit report, it hurt my score by 15 or 20 points for the last like 7 years.
Man, I can remember when you were going through that, you spent a lot of time trying to get that rectified, and there was really no one that could help you.
There was nobody. I mean, it would have been so much better to just not worry about it and let him just keep our whole security deposit, because in terms of the number of lost points and lower credit, it actually did make a difference. And so what's going to happen is basically the major credit bureaus are going to be reevaluating a couple of key factors. So there's just like certain types of civil judgments. And I think that this particular thing that I have on my report is going to be one of the ones in there. But basically they just were able to prove that a whole bunch of these were being attributed to the wrong person, that there was just errors that were messing up people's credit scores. So the bureaus have sort of agreed to refactor how they do this. And I think a lot of people are going to see a pretty decent increase. If you have any judgments or public records that are hurting you, those things might be cleared off of your report in the near future. Okay, so next up, we've got an increased sign-up offer for the Amex Platinum card. We talked about this a little while back. They just raised the annual fee from $450 to $550. Now, if you happen to live in the U.S. in a city that has Uber, this might not be the worst news for you because they've also added a $200 Uber credit.
Yeah, but there's a little bit of a caveat there. So it's kind of $200. It could be $200
if you're really,
but it's almost impossible to use it for $200 and not spend anything out of pocket. But nonetheless, it's what, $15 a month you get?
It's $15 a month, and then times that by 11, and then whatever's left out of the 200 you get in December of each year. So it's basically, if you use Uber a lot, this is great. You're going to clearly take advantage of it. But our situation, we're in Austin. Uber's been banned here. Yep. It doesn't work outside the US. So for a lot of people, this is just going to be an annual fee increase without really being able to capture much in the way of additional benefits.
The sign-up bonus makes the timing decent, though, because I mean, that's a 20,000 point jump. I mean, we have seen it up to 100, but it normally hangs out around 40.
Yes.
So at 60,000 points, it's not the worst time to hop on the offer.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about, because in my opinion, what this card really comes down to is just, what are the benefits of this card? Do I actually value these? And is the annual fee, can I stomach that? Is it worth it? Is there enough value from the different benefits? And as far as timing goes, if you're on the fence, maybe this nudges you over those extra 20,000 membership rewards points.
Yeah, it could be worth signing up. So 60,000 points after 5,000 spend in 90 days. Again, annual fees up to $550, which is not waived for the first year. But keep in mind, this is going to give you access to Priority Pass lounges. It's going to give you access to Delta lounges when flying Delta the same day. And of course, the Centurion lounges, which are pretty awesome value. So right there, that for a lot of people that travel frequently, especially that travel through airports with the Centurion Lounge, that can be well worth it. Uber credits, icing on top if you happen to be in a city that's going to be able to take advantage. And most importantly, in terms of the sign-up bonus, 60,000 Amex membership rewards. They have 17 transfer partners between the hotels and airlines. And I think Amex points are very safely in the 2.5 to 3 cents per point if you use them properly. So this is a pretty awesome deal, worth well over $1,000 if you use the points well.
Yeah.
So can be a pretty easy choice. And keep in mind, one of the last benefits with this premium card and lots of the other ones is that the annual fee, the airline fee credit is per calendar year. So this is a situation where if you get the card now, you can get $200 towards your preferred airline now and $200 in 2018 before you actually have to pay the fee.
So in less than a year, you can redeem it twice.
All right. Next up, we've got I just wanted to do a quick reminder. The SPG offer, the additional 10,000 points that's been available for the last few weeks is going to be going away tonight. So today's the last day to sign up for a Starwood Preferred Guest. The business and personal version of the card are offering a total of 35,000 points. If you meet the spending requirements, that's 10,000 more than normal. And today is the last day. So if you haven't done so, no more time left for procrastination. The one thing I wanted to mention about this is a couple of people wrote in and asked about the Marriott offer. There's a Chase Marriott card that's offering 100,000 points after meeting the minimum spend. And it actually is a pretty nice deal and a pretty good combination with the SPG card. I believe the Marriott offer is going to be lasting towards somewhere into the middle of April. So there is an end date. I'll double check and see if we can get that into the show notes. But if you actually are in a position where you can get all three of these, Marriott points go at a rate of 1 Marriott point, 3 Marriott points is worth 1 SPG point. So technically, if you were going after all three of these cards, which would be a reasonable, not too extreme round of card applications, you could get close to 100,000 SPG points out of the three offers. And that's a pretty substantial.
You would net with more than 100,000 SPG points.
Yeah, so 70 out of the 2 SPG cards, and then a little over 30 with the 100. And there's actually a bonus if you add an authorized user to the Marriott card. That one gives you an extra 7,500. So the total bonus on the table with Marriott is 107,500 points. So it's also
another nice thing about the Marriott card that we're looking at earlier is the anniversary stay. So you get a free night at a category 1 to 5. Is that the anniversary of opening the card?
Yes. So you're not going to see that until next year when you pay your annual fee again. But the card's fee is $85. $25. So pretty easy choice in terms of if you can bank more than 30,000 SPG points by getting this sign up, those are easily gonna cover that annual fee. So definitely worth considering as well. All right, so last up, we've got a listener question, and I really appreciated this one. This came out of the blue, and I really didn't know quite what to say as far as the response. So the question is, James is going to be traveling by air to buy a used car. And so the seller is only going to be taking cash. And so he's trying to figure out what the best way to transport somewhere around $20,000 to buy this car while traveling. And it just brought up just a whole bunch of questions to me. Like I realized, there's kind of a standard declaration that you have to make when you enter the United States or most countries about how much cash you're carrying. I have no idea what that is for domestic travel.
I'm not sure. I think you can bring a lot of cash because I went through a couple of blog posts. I was curious about this because and I was even looking for international stuff, but there's not a whole lot of great information on it. I mean, I think what you proposed as far as how to handle the situation is probably a pretty good answer. And the moral of the story is don't carry the cash.
Don't bring the cash.
Have a big bank that's got, the
location. Answer I wrote back to him was like, if at all possible, if you have enough time, you probably just want to open an account with like Chase or Citi or like some bank that has branches all over the US. If you're flying from, say Detroit, and you go to a Chase branch in Detroit, you say, here's my $20,000, deposit that money. And, can you please call the branch in, California or wherever I'm going to buy this car, make sure that they've got the cash on hand. I'm going to be showing up, Tuesday morning to pick up my $20,000. You should be able to just withdraw that and then avoid the trouble of actually bringing a whole bunch of cash with you. But
I mean, my parting words of wisdom, James, would be if you are committed to carrying this cash on board, keep it with you. Don't put it in the overhead bin.
Yeah. Keep it on. I mean, like I feel like the under the seat in front of you is a pretty safe spot. Like that's always where I try and keep my laptop and any valuables. But that doesn't even come close to having 20 grand in cash in a bag. That would just make for a horrible travel day for me, man. I'd be
so
nervous.
I guess James. Let us know how this goes for you. I'm curious if you're going to be bold and carry cash, or if you end up doing something like Erik recommended. Let us know how that experience was. If you don't mind reaching out, I'm curious to hear.
Yeah, one other quick.
And
tip.
Also, what kind of car is this?
I don't know.
I'm curious. I'm wondering. Like,
maybe it's not a used car. It could be a new car too that you have to buy cash. But either way, it's a lot of money. The one other tip that I have is I've used a service called Legal Shield for about 5 years. And essentially it's a monthly fee. It's about $18 a month. And you have access to have a conversation up to an hour with an attorney about anything. And so I use it at least once or twice a month to just like talk through, issues about all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And so this is a scenario where it just occurred to me immediately that like this would be, if you're actually going to carry 20 grand onto a flight, you need to know what the rules are. You need to know if you need to declare that to TSA. You need to know what your rights are. If some idiot from TSA, makes a mistake and makes it public and obvious that you've got a bunch, like there's a whole bunch of things that could go wrong there. So definitely if you're going to go through with it in a way that doesn't involve leaving it at a bank at home and picking it up at a bank where you're going, definitely check.
Do your homework.
Do your homework. All right. Well, that's going to do it for news and updates for today for core content. And I don't think we even mentioned this at the top of the show.
We gave it not at the top of the show, but we did touch on, we're going to talk about points expiring because that's something that is an award travel enthusiast nightmare is to have a lot of your points expire. And, we're going to run through the transferable points at the top of core content, and then we're going to touch on some other things, but there's some key distinctions, and not all programs are created equal. Some are much more straightforward than others. Yeah.
So I think, first of all, I was really surprised. We haven't talked about this in a long, long time. This is episode 169. And we haven't touched on point expiration in close to a year, actually. So some of the things that some of the rules have probably changed for the major programs. Let's start with the transferable currencies. So you've got American Express, Chase, and Citibank, and then Starwood Preferred Guest, which is the hotel program. The key thing to know here, so number one, Amex and Chase are pretty straightforward in the sense that if you have a card that earns those types of points, they're not going to expire as long as you have an account open and in good standing.
Right.
So the key component here is to just not close your card, and you're going to be able to maintain. And I think we were talking about this before we started recording here, that both membership rewards and ultimate rewards are two really valuable programs, and it makes sense to just have one card for each.
Even if you got to pay a little bit of an annual fee. I mean, come on.
Typically you can negotiate around those fees, but it's worth paying the fee. So what I would say though is Amex, they don't have any cards that are sort of partial membership rewards earning cards, right? If the card earns membership rewards, they're full power, regular membership rewards that you can transfer to all the partners. Chase, on the other hand, has sort of a split system where the Sapphire Preferred, the Sapphire Reserve, the Ink Plus, and the Ink Business Preferred all have the ability to transfer to Chase's transfer partners, which include United, Southwest, Singapore, Flying Blue. They're really, really powerful when you have that transfer ability. However, Freedom and Ink Cash don't transfer unless you have one of the premium cards.
Right.
And so the key thing to keep in mind with with the Ultimate Rewards points is if you have the Freedom card or the Freedom Unlimited, those points are protected as long as you keep that card open. Right. And the Freedom card has no annual fee. So it's super easy to keep that card open. Just pay your bill on time. You're all set. And the nice thing is that whenever you want to, you can open a Sapphire Preferred card or potentially upgrade your Freedom card and then activate the ability to transfer those points. But the bottom line here is that in these cases, no matter what, your points are safe as long as you've got a credit card that earns them. Now, moving on to Citi, the picture is not even close.
They're a little bit of a cluster here because there's so many different exceptions, some serious if-then stuff. So, I mean, the thing is, there's a distinction between where the points come from, whether it's a particular card you use, whether it's somebody shared points with you. So I guess, where do we want to start with this? I think that the key thing that's really difficult to kind of wrap your head around with Citi is that the points are tied to the particular card that was used to earn the points.
Yes. So no matter what, you have to consider each individual Citi thank you account by itself. So each card that earns thank you points is its own separate thing. And the part that's confusing is that Citi shows you all your thank you points together. But the basic rules are as follows. Number one, your Citi thank you card protects your points. As long as you keep the card that earned those points open, your points are not going to expire. There's a couple of lower level cards that do have some weird expiration, but the major cards that are going to apply to most people, so that's the Prestige, the Premier, and then the Preferred. And that's sort of in the order of price of annual fee. So the Prestige is the $450 fee, Premier is $95, and then the Preferred is either no fee or a bit lower. Those ones, they're not going to expire as long as the card's open. But our situation, so we have the Prestige and a Premier card, and if we were to close the Premier card, all of those points, which there's 150,000 points that have been earned on that, all of those go away after 60 days, no matter what. So if you close the card, you have to either use the points, which means transferring them to one of Citi's partners or redeeming them for purchases, or they're gone. So that's number one, 60 days after the point that you close a card. The second one is if you transfer Citi thank you rewards to a friend. So if I gave you 50,000 of my Citi points, the clock starts ticking and you've got 90 days to be able to use those. I think the best advice with Citi is, number one, their website does a pretty good job of showing you the expiration dates once you've logged in and are looking at your points summary. So that's the place to keep an eye on that. But just be aware, if you're going to close any of your Citi cards, you need to make sure that you've got a game plan for how you're going to use those points within 60 days.
Yeah, park those points somewhere safe.
Okay, so last up is Starwood Preferred Guest. And I think this is important to explain generally because this is an area where tons of people get confused and we get lots of questions about this. So Starwood is a hotel program. And unlike Citi, Chase, and Amex, the points aren't really like bank points. They're hotel points.
Right.
And so if you have a Starwood Preferred Guest Amex card, the moment that you pay the bill on that card, Amex is essentially buying SPG points for you, right? And they're putting them in your SPG account. So if you close your Starwood Preferred Guest card, you're not going to lose your points.
Right.
And that's the opposite of what we were saying with Chase, for example. Like if you close your last card that earns Ultimate Rewards points, your Ultimate Rewards are gone. With the Amex SPG card, those points are safe, but they're subject to Starwood's expiration policy.
Right, which is 12 months.
which is not that long.
No, it's really not when you consider, you get a card, you hit a minimum spend, and then, you let the card sit for a while. So I guess what's important to know is that it's really not that difficult to extend your points for another 12 months, for another year. All you have to do, if you got the SPG card, just got to use the card. Purchase anything,
any transaction,
stay at a hotel, buy points. You just need to do something that earns you any SPG points. So it's what's the account activity essentially is what you need to trigger.
Yeah. So essentially, like if you have a Starwood account, you don't have to worry about closing the credit card. Closing the credit card, the only thing you're doing is just making it harder to generate that activity. But if you already stay at Starwood, you just don't have to worry. So that's really important. And it's the same thing. The reason I wanted to kind of hammer on that point is that we get asked this a lot about other frequent flyer programs. So Chase partners with United. There's lots of Chase cards that earn United miles. If you close the Chase card, you don't lose your United points because Chase is
same like that SPG situation.
Points for you. Same idea. So let me just review the major U.S. programs that you want to be aware of. So Americans points expire after 18 months without activity. So if you have a Citi American Advantage card and you close that card, all the points that you've earned are safe for 18 months, or if that gets extended if you've generated activity in your American account. United's 18 months as well. Southwest and Alaska are 24, and Delta has no expiration.
But they will always inflate.
Yeah, one silver lining. You can't actually use them for anything, but they don't have an expiration. Other key programs to be aware of, these are transfer partners, generally the transferable currencies. Aeroplan, which is an Amex partner, has only a 12-month window. Same idea there where you can generate activity. So if you've got, say, 50,000 Aeroplan points and you haven't been able to use them, the solution to extending that life is transferring 1,000 Amex membership rewards over to Aeroplan. That resets the date. Same idea. British Airways is actually 36 months. That's
generous.
One of the other big programs that lots of people have points in. So that's worth being aware of as well. And then there's two big transfer partners that can't be saved by activity. And so I wanted to bring this up. Singapore and ANA. Singapore's transfer partners with all three. ANA is an Amex transfer partner. Both of those, the points expire 36 months after you earn them, no matter what. So this is actually a problem. I've got like 5,000 ANA points that are just stranded, and I think they're going to expire relatively soon. And there's nothing you can do. You can't transfer more points in. They're just hard deadline. So that's the basic.
Well, you could transfer more points in as long as it's before they expire.
Yeah, but it doesn't help. So like the 5,000 points that I have in ANA are going to expire on X date, no matter what happens.
But if you transfer points in before that X date and you redeem them, then you're good.
As long as you redeem them.
Right. Yeah.
But the ones that expire. So that's the thing is like the account activity helps with every program. As far as I know, except for Singapore and ANA, those are the two, at least most common ones that don't have that activity reset. But anyways, we're going to put a chart in the show notes here that's got the major expirations. Would also love to hear your stories. Again, if you've got points that are going to expire and you don't have a credit card that can generate that account activity, obviously redeeming is one way, but often you can either buy some points pretty cheap, 10 or $15 to buy 1,000 points, or donate some points to charity, preserve those. If you guys do have an expiration crisis, let us know and we'll do what we can to help. And also keep in mind, Award Wallet is a great tool for being able to keep track of your points balances, see when that last activity was, and they will even track your expiration date on a bunch of your frequent flyer balances. Yeah,
that's and if you have a Award Wallet Pro account, they will track all. Will they track all of that expiration dates?
I think they do it for like 5 accounts for free, and then after that you have to upgrade.
Yeah, which is it's what $30 a year now.
Yeah,
I think so. It's reasonable if you consider like other products, less than $3 a month. So pretty powerful software.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this week's show. We had to lead off saying we were going to keep it nice and short. Thanks everybody for being with us. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. AJ and I will be back next Wednesday, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard.
See you next week. Safe travels.
Hey, brothers, don't be shy. Hop over to the website and join our email list for exclusive travel hacking content. If you like what we're up to, the best way you can support the show is by leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes. Lastly, we would love to hear from you, so send your show feedback to Erik